Hey guys, welcome back. This is Lucid. I've got a new kind of episode, I guess, for you. We're going to be doing a national overview for a mod nation. And this isn't something I normally do. This is something one of my Patreon supporters wanted me to do. So I am obliging. So Peter is who requested this, and he has a couple mod nations that he really likes. And so he sent them to me. And boy, are they complicated. It's taken me like a few hours to figure out really how they work and how to do expansion and all of this business. But it's pretty damn cool. And you wouldn't think they were that complicated because the first nation is just crystal Amazons. And you'd think, oh, okay, I know what crystal Amazons are. I know how those work. You know, they get the little pony riders and they have air and astral access, and that's it. So, no. It's one of, I think it's by far and away, like, way more complicated than any other nation that is in vanilla. Possibly unduly complicated. And for those that want the conclusion at the end of the video, I think it's probably too overpowered to play in multiplayer. But if you want to have a fun, very different single-player experience, it's a very well-made mod nation. Or if you're playing with other kind of strong mod nations in multiplayer, you could do it. Or if y'all are just, I think it's an early age nation, so it's going to be way stronger than the other early age nations. But if you have things like Scalaria or Nazca or some of the other cancerous nations, like it's on that level. So we will get into it. I have a lot to cover. There's a ton of summons. I'm not going to cover all of them because I'm only really going to cover the mod summons. Like what are the spells they changed? Because they gave them almost all of the Jomon, Shinuyama type spells where you're getting like all the sacred flying little demon dudes. So you get almost all those, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Like this nation does not need that. But anyway, we're not going to go through those. What we are going to go through is the units you can recruit, and then some of the national spells, and some of the national summons, and then we're going to end by talking about how you do expansion, and thoughts on how to play this nation well. So we'll go through it. I think we're going to go through this part kind of quickly, where we talk about all the different units. We'll start down here. These are Amazon initiates. They don't look that good because they don't have very good protection. They have no shield or no armor. They do go berserk, and they promote. When they get 45 experience, they go up to the next level, which is it turns out a sacred unit. That is right. They promote into a sacred unit. So not only does their upkeep get cut in half, but they become badass. I'll show you actually right now, since we're talking about it, the unit that they promote into, which is these folks, the Amazon Exemplar. And just getting promoted gives them shock resistance and affliction resistance. They still don't have armor, which kind of sucks for them, but they have a javelin and a bronze lance. And I think these guys get it too. Yeah, they have a javelin too. So, and I wish I knew more about the experience system. I don't know how much you get just for participating in battle. I know you get some for kills. They probably don't tell you here. The units get 1 XP per month, but they get more by participating in fights. I have no idea how much more. Each level gives a bonus to precision attack defense. Commanders, okay. How much you get for participating in a fight, we can probably find out real quick. We'll just do this in the name of science. So we're just gonna we'll go kill something. I've got, okay, this actually is perfect. We'll take you with the wind bag. Your gargoyles will kill everything, and then we're just gonna put you here, and you've got 10 experience. So you'll have 11 next month if you were to do nothing, and we'll give you a bunch of air gems so you can kill a bunch of shit. And that way this person is almost guaranteed not to get any kills. Just put them on guard commander, put you back here, and then we'll have you summon living clouds and hold an attack rear. Okay, so that will kill all of the barbarians, and Let's see if indeed it did. Okay, okay, let's make sure our little friend didn't get in combat. Okay, he did not engage in combat, so we should be at 11. How much do we get for participating in battle? We got 4. Okay. So just having these guys participate in 10 battles, which is kind of a lot, they will get 50 XP, which will push them into being sacred units. Now that's a lot, but you think about it, if you give them a front line, and you just have them chunk spears or javelins, and then the fight's over, you're going to have sacred units. Which is ridiculous. It's just crazy. So that is these guys. Pretty cool. Then we have Composite Bowmen, which are just your generic Composite Bowmen. Then we have Amazon Archers, which are sacred. It says able to strike with the bow even in the harshest storms. I don't see anything that makes it look like their bows, like they don't have storm power or anything like that. Christel Infantry, these are sacred. Now, okay, I think you can get these in your cap. Or, I'm sorry. Christel Infantry. Okay, yeah. They have decent gear. They're like solid human units that get sacred. I don't think you get these in your... Yeah, you don't get these in your forts, okay? But you get them in your cap. Now, okay, so we've done well, let's go back to the national overview. Okay, so that was the Christel Infantry. You get them in your cap. They're just really cheap sacred units. If you want to crap some out, you can do it. Next, we get the Thunder Guard. These guys you can get everywhere. They can be recruited everywhere, but you have to cast like a certain national spell, or you have to have a certain type of pretender to unlock it. Basically, you need one of the demigods around, and I think you can cast a spell that will also... So if you get any of the summonable demigods, and it may be that if they're your pretender, you can get these guys immediately. And I'm not exactly sure which one, because I haven't gone and tested all the pretenders. And that's one of the reasons this nation's so complicated, is based on which pretenders you get, different things will unlock for you at different times. But having a shock resistance 5 overcharged dude is kind of sick for 18 gold. That has, by the way, a lightning spear, and this is like the lightning spear, the item. So if it hits, it's going to do 10 armor negating shock damage. Like, these guys are just, like, they're like little miniature Zeuses. I mean, they're going to be blowing up everything with overcharge and lightning spears all over the place. Like, this guy's super duper good, and you can get them everywhere. Right, 17 defense is quite nice. 13 hit points is not bad at all. Attack is decent. Like, these are very solid units. Okay. That was the Thunder Guard. Then you have Wind Tribe Cavalry. These are basically like Horse Tribe. I think they're a little cheaper. Or I'm probably wrong about that. I'm not going to say that. I have no idea if they're cheaper. But they're pretty cheap. 23 gold gets you a composite bow. So we'll talk about expansion later. But these are definitely things you want to consider for taking out barb provinces. Like, having a stack of like 30 of these will be able to go a long way to helping you get through barbs. Because basically you'll be able to shoot them with your bow, and then when they close, you'll poke them with your spear, which will give you a... Oh, I guess we don't get a charge bonus for this. It's not a lance. Okay, we don't. But they do have high defense. But basically, you'll just shoot shit with your spear. It may be better, actually, to go with these guys. Yeah, I would probably do that for barbs. Just crap out a ton of these. Because barbs are going to be one of the things that's going to be tricky with your other units you're going to probably want to expand with, which are these. The Christel Maiden. Or, I'm sorry, the Wind Maiden. So this is very weird, and I don't know if I fully understand it. You get a Wind Maiden and a Christel Maiden. The Wind Maiden you get everywhere, and they're not afflicted. The Christel Maiden comes with the chest wound. And I can't figure out for the life of me why you would want a chest wound for the same amount of gold and the same amount of resources, basically. These do have better protection. And that may make the difference. You know, like, even though you're kind of high encumbrance, like, the fights don't last that long. I don't know. I would not get this, I'm sorry. I mean, they have more damage. But, okay, you can get these in every single province. Like, Wind Maiden, Sacred, Flying, Cavalry, Storm Immunity. I mean, that is having Storm Immunity on a Recruit Anywhere Sacred, I don't think Calum even gets that. And this is on a horse. And it's not that expensive. It's only 45 gold. Like, the right price for this should be like 70 gold. If you're gonna give it everywhere, it should be at least 70 gold. People would still get it. I mean, these things, like, this is ridiculous. This is so good. So that's a Wind Maiden. And then your cap, you can get up to 2 of these a turn. They have Glamour, which is kind of cool. Standard and Awe. You can also summon these with a spell for like 3 gems apiece. And that's probably worth it, except I think if you summon them, you have to pay magical, or you have to pay upkeep still. Let me check. I think I've got some here. These I summoned. Yeah, you still have to pay upkeep. So paying gems for something you're going to have to pay gold upkeep on. Not super duper stoked. Okay, so those are the units you can recruit. There's more commanders. So the commanders, we get Wind Tribe, which inspirational plus 140 leadership, not bad. Christel Priestess, these are the same basically that you get as Indies. And these actually can be important because one of the things we are not going to have easy access to, we're not going to have Holy Threes, is basically... Wait, we can't get these, can we? Maybe we can. Oh, they attract initiates every month, too. So they're a free spawn nation, too. I don't think I even realized that. We'll double check, because I'm going to pull up the expansion game, like where I expanded with them, and you'll see how freaking scary these guys are. But, yeah, okay, so you have a Holy Three. So I was going to say, and it's not correct anymore, that, because, like, with nations that don't have good Holy Three access, actually one of the things you always want to find, if you can, is a Crystal nation, like Crystal Amazons. Because the astral priests can plug into communions and get you up to Holy Three. So anyway, that's one way to use the Crystal Priestess. You get Crystal Sorceresses, which can just communion up and do all of the air things you would ever want them to do. I think every game I find them, I try to recruit them every turn. Like, they're really good. Then you have the Cloud Sage. Now, these guys are pretty expensive. Like, they're 3 of the other guy, but it's a recruit anywhere, and it's 3 recruitment points, which is kind of weird. But it's a recruit anywhere Air 3 mage, which is kind of nuts, really. And there's a chance that it's like you'll have several Air 4s. Air 4 is ridiculously high. So they also have Storm Immunity and Storm Power, which is kind of cool. They're adept researchers. They're expensive for researching, but they're freaking badass. I think if your goal is to spam Thunderstrike and stuff, you're going to be better with the Crystal Amazons and getting into a communion. Because once you get into just the way fatigue mechanics and all that work, and then also with Power of the Spheres, these guys are going to be laying out way more, and they're cheaper too, but they're going to be laying out way more Thunderstrikes than these guys will. Because, for the same amount of gold. Because basically they're going to be able to distribute the fatigue onto the slaves, and the slaves will potentially be a higher path than them, so they'll take less fatigue. You'll be able to do a ton of Thunderstrike spam with these guys. But if you're not really thinking about Thunderstrike spam, if you just want to have somebody come and cast Storm, or have somebody come and like drop Fog Warriors without having to lug the whole Communion around, which can be pretty important, especially later in the game when humans are a little bit of a vulnerability and you need to put items on them just to get them to survive. And you can't do that to all your Communion slaves. This is kind of your dude. Sky Tribe. The Sky Tribe, you can't always get these by default. They're kind of a weird little unit. They get this by default on them, like built into their chassis, which gives them inspirational +4. And then they have a pretty good javelin that they can throw a lot of. I'm not totally sure how I would use these. Probably I would want them throwing the javelin. I'm not sure. They only have 5 leadership, so I'm not sure what I would put on them. Because we can't see them here, but you can get basically little versions of these guys that I don't think they have javelins. We have them up here, but oh wait, did that enchantment go away? Oh, it didn't. Oh, here they are. What does it say? Cannot be recruited now. Oh, maybe you can't get these anymore once your nation gets blood. But they have javelins, yeah. I mean, they're not very impressive, to be honest. I'm sure you could think of a use for this guy. I can't exactly. They're stealthy, so you could actually turn them into really good assassins. If you break into blood, that's actually probably what I would use them for. So yeah, and this nation can break into blood super easy, but they don't have great things to spend blood to spend blood slaves on. But getting a bunch of these guys would probably be the best call. Yeah, we can't get recruitment, not possible right now. That must be because I broke into blood. Let's check real quick. There's a spell. To get these guys, you have to cast a spell called Conference of the Birds. We already have it. Awakened Wind Tribe Village. Why can't I recruit? It must have something to do... Oh, we must have a Cloud Sage or one of the mages in that. Wait, stay put. Where did I put this guy? I'll just get one of them. We'll stick him here, and then... Yeah. Yeah, so these guys are actually... I think what I would use them for is just as assassins after you break into blood. You can just put lifelong protections on them, and then they have the little hawks that are going to come out, and they'll throw the javelins of flight, and you'll just hate your freaking life, is basically what will happen. Yeah, that's pretty damn scary. So... that's these guys, but I wouldn't really use them, I don't think, to lead troops. They're stealthy, so potentially you could do very light rating. The problem is these guys who you would probably put them with, they kind of suck. Like, they could take out like 5 PD, but 10 PD, oof. Though potentially you have other types of summons and stuff this guy could use, like, I'm not sure what. You also get these guys when you cast it, which is basically just a flying... Nature Air. Nature Air is a good cross path for rainbow armor, but that's about it. And then Nature is nice just to have. I mean, these guys could also be assassins, but now they can be like air elemental summoning assassins if you throw a black heart on them, which is obviously what would be required to make these guys assassins too, but you have to break into blood first. So that's kind of how to use those. And then Pretenders of the World. We've got the Christel Strategists, which gets a rather ridiculous 120 leadership, so this would be your best general. They get 2 holy and then storm immunity. And they can lead your Wind Maidens around an expansion, and they bless them up very easily, and then they will also be leading your armies around later. The Christel Pythia. These are Holy 3, they're old, they're fortune tellers, and they're healers. And they're monster summoners. They're going to attract initiates to your court, which is not bad. They basically are going to be giving you a 10 gold unit, which you like to have because they can become sacred. And if you think about it, you're trying to keep a bunch, like you have really good sacreds and you want to keep them around, but you also, like your initiates, you want them in combat, so there's a good chance they're going to get afflictions. So having a few of these guys around, healing up your armies over time is probably good. And if you have these running around with your armies, they'll be giving you free spawn in your armies, which you can just have them like the initiates on guard commander until they soak up enough experience to become sacred. But yeah, they'll be healing your armies and summoning these dudes. So, pretty sick. Very good unit. Let's see what they say about the lore at the bottom. Okay, not too much. Christel Astrologer. Here you can see we have our Earth astral access. We get the air and Earth and crystal or astral cross paths, or random paths that we can get. So you can get up to like an air 4 with this if you're really lucky. You can only get up to Earth 2, but you can get up to astral 4 as well. So importantly, Earth 2 gives you Earth boots. And this is really important for late game stuff like Army of Gold and all of that business. Importantly, it also lets you forge crystal shields, which allows you to, especially if you're doing a communion, you can, well, crystal shields are really only good in communions when you're using crystal matrices and stuff, but you can also make crystal matrices with this and throw nature into your Thunderstrike communions. And then if you put one of these people, one of the Crystal Astrologers, in one of your normal Crystal Amazon communions, they can throw in Earth Power to really attack the fatigue of the slaves. So, mix of doing Personal Regen on the slaves and then summon Earth Power would be pretty good. But you need the Crystal Gear to be able to throw Nature Mages in, and then this is just good to add into big Thunderstrike communions. You also have some Earth Astral spells as a nation, which we can kind of look at. And then we have 2 more units which you don't really get access to at the beginning. They're here, and I'll just show them to you. You get the Thunder Priestess. She will get, if you make them a prophet, which this is some of the stuff I don't know. But there's one of the Pretender Gods, which is like a custom Pretender God for the nation, that if you get them, I think you get these guys right away, but I could be wrong. Yeah, so if you make one of them a prophet, you get 3 Thunder Guards a month, which is the shit. You also get, I'm actually not totally sure what we get by default. I've got one here. Let's just pull everything over here and we'll see what we get when we do a new turn. Okay, so she basically just gets initiates, but she's pretty sick. Oh, we'll make her. Can we make her a prophet? No. Okay. Okay, so that is this lady. Now, to unlock them, there's a few ways you can do it. One is if you have one of the demigods present. The other is if you build a crystal palace. I believe it will unlock her. So there's a few different ways to make her recruitable in your capital, but yeah, this is kind of it. She potentially could thug, because she has decent thug paths, but I don't think that's how you really want to use her. Basically, I mean, it's a really good caster, but it's a holy, I thought they were holy too. Let's make another one. I don't know if I got her from an event. Okay, there's some way that they are becoming potentially Holy 3. Is it a random? Oh, 20% of them will be Holy 3. Okay. So that's the reason, just to get it. But I wish... Where's my prophet? I kind of want to suicide them. I'm not going to. Okay, so anyway, we've done the basic units. Before we move on to the summons, let's go through a few highlights. You have Wind Maidens, who are ridiculously strong, that are recruit anywhere, sacred, flying, storm immune, cavalry for 45 gold. Okay? So that is the first strength of the nation, and if there's no other reason to play them, it is just for this. You can expand like crazy with these guys. I mean, we'll go count. I didn't even count, but like my first time trying with a decent bless, I got like 30 or 40 provinces in year one. I mean, and I wasn't even trying. I messed up and I like expanded wrong like several times. So yeah, you get Wind Maidens. You get these guys for 10 gold, who have javelins, which are useful, which are going to turn into sacred units that are going to also throw javelins. And potentially, if you buff your strength, you're going to have like reasonably high damage javelins, right? Because if you have like a bless that buffs your strength, you're going to have like pretty hard-hitting javelins. In our case, oh, we didn't do it this time. In my test game, I'll show you what bless we took, but I've got some ideas about a bless for this nation. So, yeah, so we've got normal units which turn into sacreds and recruit everywhere sacred. So those are like very big flags that we need a very good bless. Our guys typically have pretty good defense. They typically are low in damage, which means when pretty high protection things come out, you can run into a big roadblock. The only thing that's good about this is that the damage we do is often piercing, which means if we buff it some, we'll be able to pierce through some pretty high protection. We also are geared up to be like a super powerful air nation, and that we can do storm, and we have things with storm power and flight, and yeah, it's scary. Finally, there's a way to break into blood nations, but we'll talk. This guy you can't really recruit until you cast a certain spell, but basically you can break into blood. So okay, we spent a lot of time talking about the units. Let's go ahead and talk about the summons. Now, there are a ton. Like, everything you see in blue is some custom spell for this nation, right? And that's... I mean, you can see there's a lot. Like, that's alteration, there's some. They've altered some of these. I'm not going to talk about the altered spell. Like, they've altered Wrath of God to probably make it cheaper or something. And then a bunch of things they've altered. And I haven't even checked the items out. There may be some items that are... I mean, we can check real quick. See if anything jumps out at us. Blade of the Sky. Yeah, 10 temporary airdromes. Okay, so there's a few custom items here. Dime of... Yeah. There's some unique items that these guys can get to. We're not... I don't know if I'm going to go through all that. I'll leave some mystery for you. I mean, you could probably write a book, like figuring out all this shit that they've put in here for this nation. So, but let's talk about some of the important summons. Now, when you first play this nation, you'll get very confused, most likely like I did, where you realize you can't cast a lot of the spells you're supposed to cast. And you actually have to read the description. You can't just look at the paths and be like, oh, okay, well, I'll get an Air 4 and then I'll cast it. So, like, let's do an example. Let's say you want to summon one of these guys, which is a Boread. Like, oh, I want to summon a Boread. So you go find the spell. And you're like, I'll just use one of my debug senseis. You're like, oh, call Boread, right? Oh, wait, shit. Okay, I'm kind of mistalking our way through this. Right, there's called Boread. Maybe it was air? 1 second. Okay, yeah, air. Siko's Gift. This can only be cast by a Boread, but you don't have Boread. So then you have to figure out, okay, how do I summon a Boread? So you come down here, you summon a Boread. Once you summon a Boread, which is this thing, which is pretty damn cool. It's a long list of traits. Once you summon one of these guys, then you can go and you can do Siko's Gift, and that will give you basically a Boread with fire, which having a fire water is a very, very good cross path in this game. So kind of cool. But this is one of the units you get. They can seduce, so they're assassins. They're obviously like terrifying assassins. You would hate to fight one of these. And I mean, yeah, you could put things that would make it where they basically never die in an assassination. And yeah, they have healer. I mean, they're really good. Get water access. I don't think they're terribly expensive. 40 water gems. I think this is well worth 40 water gems. Have somebody like who's an extremely strong air water assassin. Potentially could seduce too, like steal a unit, and then obviously can do all sorts of water stuff for you that otherwise you don't have access to. And then with a measly, and it really is measly, 15 air gems, you get to be fire too. And that gives you air fire, which lets you warm up provinces if you need to. And it gives you water fire, which gives you rune smashers and other things. And potentially acid storm later in the game. So really strong. I don't think you want to cast acid storm assassination, by the way, but you can do it. Okay, so Benedictions of the Clouds. Now this is one of the things I can't really show you, because I think to do this... Okay, wait 1 second. This is like one of the things that's pretty confusing, because to do it must be cast at the first Sanctuary of the Clouds. Now, 1 second. I have no idea how to get a Sanctuary of the Clouds. And it could be that I'm kind of dumb, or I'm like missing something semi-obvious. But I don't think so. But this is one of the reasons it's like kind of tricky to play. So it's a little bit, you know, like a new game, trying to figure these guys out. And this is one thing I have not figured out for the nation, how to do it. If one of you has played it and you can say how you get it, it may be, well, I'm not sure. I really just don't know. But that's like one of the confusing things. So you have to have a Sanctuary of the Cloud, but you don't have any Sanctuary of the Clouds. It may be, and it probably is, that if you get one of the Pretenders, it'll open it up for you. Because I think I like empowered somebody to do it earlier. Was it you? Was it you? Who was it? Oh, it was you. So this guy I empowered to have the right path so he could cast it. But it says he can't. But you get a white cloud dragon? I want that. A precious artifact that must be infused. Oh wait, maybe we can do this, guys. We're gonna figure it out. Turns out we can read. Okay, we're gonna make this. And then we're going to put this on, let's say you. Okay, wait, who can wear it? It can be made by the right hero to join its crusade. Gupthias. So you may have to have some hero, which we don't have. I wonder if any of these guys can carry it. Only wearable by some guy you don't have. So you can see that it's like a puzzle figuring out. And I'm glad we're doing some of this, because like when you try to play the nation, you'll be like, what the hell? It's you have to read, which is not something I always do. And you have to, I guess, and once you understand everything, you can probably start piecing it together better than I have in terms of the right research priorities and how you work up to what. And so some of that, I just haven't played it enough to really give you insight on. Like, I don't know how to get that. So there's some strategies I'm going to miss out on. And the thing is, when you get different pretenders with this nation or different blesses, I think you can play it a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you one way to play it, and I'll do that in a bit. For now, let's talk about some of the other things we can get. So in Conjuration, we get, or was it Conjuration? No. Thaumaturgy. We get all of our really important summons. One, Crystal Crusade is one of the ways to get, to unlock Thunder Priestesses and Thunder Guards in all forts. So this changes the type of recruit you can get. And Thunder Guards, in a pitched fight, might be able to kill a Wind Rider. And they're definitely cheaper. So if you're running into gold issues, these are certainly nice to get. But you do kind of like the flyers. Callbird Allies. This gives you Silver Hawks, which you can cast in combat. It doesn't take any gems, but this is a kind of cool summon. It's like Horde of Skeletons, but with flyers, so that's kind of cool. Coming down here, we get a Hawk King, which this is like a remote attack, where you get an Air 2 Mage and some Chaff. So you really don't want him to die. You really want it to live, but it's a remote cast, so you can either summon it into a fort kind of distant, where you might not have the right guy to cast it, or you can take a province with it, like Call of the Wild or something, and then just have that mage come back or continue to lead forces around. But this is the mage that you get when you do Call of the or Hawk King or whatever it is. You get an Air 2. He's got 100 leadership, which is a lot. And he comes with a bunch of Silver Hawks, which have high defense but very low damage, which is normally enough. Like, this is enough to kill light PD, especially if they have this guy like casting Lightning Bolt or something behind it. And if you're breaking into Blood, this is not a horrible way to, well, it's kind of expensive, let's be honest. But flyers are very good patrollers, so you can use these guys as patrollers and then give the mage some other job. Okay, back to Thaumaturgy. Then you can get Call Flock of Birds. This gets you Silver Hawks. And this is, you use one gem, but you get a lot of them. So this is like the free version. This is the expensive one. You get Call Titan Eagle. 55 gems, and you may be thinking, okay, it's 55 air gems, it better be really good. And indeed it is. It's this guy who is a white eagle, and he gets Air 4 Fear, a whopping siege bonus, so he does 33 siege damage. He has recuperation because of course he does, and then storm power and storm immunity. In addition, he is going to summon an air elemental every turn. And so anyway, if you want him to, you can just have him do Call Bird Allies or whatever, and he's automatically going to create an air elemental every turn. And yeah, that's just, I'll show you what this guy does when you send him in to attack indies. Like, we'll send him to attack these guys, Mistform, Mirror Image, cast spells. And you can think he's going to be like, in an army, he would be doing big buffs and then Thunderstrike or something like that. But meanwhile, all the free spawn's going to be coming out. Like these. I guess he's casting Awakened True Wind Spirits, which gives you these little birds. Let's see if we can actually cast that. I'm not totally sure what spell that is. Oh, here it is. Yeah, enchantment 9. Whew. Yeah, that's scary when you start getting those guys. That's probably like a major research target, getting enchantment 9. I mean, enchantment 9 is good on an Astral Nation too, because it's going to open up Nexus. But getting like a no gem required summon basically little small air elementals, and it scales with your magic paths. I mean, that is so freaking strong, and it's awesome that the AI likes casting it too, because I mean, you're just going to blow things up. Now, if you get one of these guys and you have him cast this spell. Did we get rid of our lab? Are you freaking kidding me? We have him cast this spell, Inner Tempest, which is 20 air gems. He turns into this guy, who is a hidden the mist avatar. So he basically gets 2 levels in water, which is cool. He gets regeneration. I don't think this guy got regeneration now. So this guy gets regeneration. Does he lose hit points though? Yeah, he loses a shit ton of hit points. I didn't realize that. So he loses a shit ton of hit points. He gets regeneration though. He has tons of resistances of all kinds. He's ethereal. He's glamored. So no need to do mirror image like the other guy did. Recuperation, storm power, storm immunity. But this time, and he doesn't summon these little air elementals. Oh, wait. It's even greater. Let's have him attack somebody. You go over here. I forget exactly how many he gets. Oh. He's going to get a full-size air elemental every turn. Which obviously is ridiculously strong. I mean, if you imagine this guy Fog Warriorsing and then casting that, I mean, it's brokenly strong. So, now, to get it, you have to go into Thaumaturgy, which is okay. You have some decent astral stuff. Thaumaturgy's not bad to go into. But you really only have to get to 6. And once you're at 6, that's kind of enough. The things you get after that are good, but I think this guy's good enough that you don't really need any other air gem sinks. Right, so getting up to Thaumaturgy 6 is nice, but yeah, you're going to want to go up Evocation 2, so you're an Astral Nation. Evocation and Thaumaturgy is going to give you Mind Hunt and Soul Slay, but then you're in addition going to get Titan Eagle. You're going to want to run up Enchantment. The other thing you want to think about in Thaumaturgy is Gale Gate, which, where the hell is it? Or is it Enchantment? I can never remember. I could have sworn it was Thaumaturgy. Oh, here it is. Yeah. I think it's 7, but I've got the debug mod unlocked, so I can't really tell. But I think it's 7, so you might want to go up to 7, or you might want to stop at 6. Depends on kind of what your situation is. But having a ton of air gems will break the game, because you can get Call Titan Eagles, and then you can turn them into these guys who are basically going to break the game for you. For slots, you may want to actually give them like an air booster, like a Bag of Wind, which gives them an air elemental at the start, but it's also going to allow them to even greater, like with greater efficiency, summon your Awakened Spirits once you get, or your, whatever the hell they're called. Awakened True Wind Spirits. Yeah. Maybe not. You can just keep them as it is. Actually, probably not. It's probably better to have another one of them than to buff them up. So yeah. So those guys are super duper powerful. We'll show you what these are. But basically the way this works is you can do Call Demigod of the Sky, and that's going to give you a random one of these, a Phoenix, a Griffin, or a Raven. And then once you have one of them, then they can call their brothers for a reduced cost. So like if you get the Phoenix, you can use the Phoenix and he can call the Griffin or the Raven for the other one. So here they are. This is the Phoenix. Basically super high path access for fire. They're also Dominion Immortality, which is kind of badass. You've got Archeosis, the Griffin Demigod. So you're getting Astral 5 plus, and you have a hat slot, which I think you can wear this. No, you can't. Okay. So yeah, you can get up to Astral 7, which is pretty damn high. But this is like one of the highest. Like, the game does not provide, even with Wish, many chassis that get up into Astral 5. I think this might be the highest. I don't even know if you could wish for this. Because this would be like one of, if not the highest, one of the highest Astral chassis in the game. And of course you have Priest level 5, just because. And then here we've got Air 4, Astral 3, Death 4, because we need good death access on this nation. Oh god. And yeah, Dark Power. This would be more useful if you're going to break into Blood. So these are the guys honestly, I probably would just take the birds. These guys are so ridiculously strong. But if you need the path access, you have them. Okay, so here's all the, you can see we get almost all of the Shinuyama Yomi kind of summons. And most of these are sacred, so again, a reason to take a good bless. What's important about this? It's like, okay, you can turn your air gems into sacreds. Check. You can turn your earth gems into sacreds with the Kona Tengu. Do we have a nature one? Yeah, we can turn nature gems into sacreds. And I know there's a way. Yeah, we can turn astral gems into sacreds. These ones I think cost gold upkeep though. The other ones don't. That I can think of. We also get this summon, the Aurora Ingenia, which is a bit tricky to say. But for 80 gems, which is pretty expensive, you get this lady who throws off free fire gems every month. And she's Astral 2, Fire 2, Astral 3, Earth or Air 3. Gives you fire gems. She can also seduce. Monster Summoner, what does she summon? I think she summons, yeah, these guys. Which are basically the units you get from your cap, but they're cap only and they're limited to 2 a month and they're glamored and storm immune and flying and sacred and awe. So they're really good. And she gets them for free, or 1 free every month, which is kind of badass. I don't know if I wouldn't say it's not worth 80 pearls, but 80 pearls is really expensive. Like, if it were cheaper, I would say it's too cheap, maybe. But it depends. I don't know. I don't know if I would want to part with 80 pearls for it. But if it were much cheaper than getting a free fire gem plus a free super high value troop, I think they're like 80 gold. Yeah, 85 gold. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty damn valuable. So again, high payoff, high reward. And let me turn this off. Let's make sure we get all the things we're going to talk about. And I kind of want to get, there's a ton of stuff, and I'm not going to be able to cover it all. There's only a few more things I think I really am going to mention. One is if you break yourself into blood, you can summon one of these guys, a Tyrant Philosopher. And what this guy is going to do is, so it's 50 gold, or 50 slaves to get one of them. And by the way, that's really cheap. Once you get one of them, then you can cast the spell, which is Reassemble the Areopagus, which gives you this in your capital. So it's going to give you 4 blood slaves a turn and 2 pearls. It's going to boost blood range by 2, and it's going to give you sloth and order. The other thing is the Crystal Arc gives you a blood magic bonus. So summoning these guys in your capital or casting this spell in your capital is actually really, really, really cheap. Yeah. So like you can. Yeah, that is kind of crazy because what it in effect is going to mean is this guy's going to cost like what 35 gold or something, 35 blood slaves. Now when you get them, they have randoms. So this guy got a random astral and a random blood, so he's a little better. A lot of times they can be, like 2 blood, 2 astral, or sometimes 3 blood, 2 astral, or whatever. But still ridiculously good. Now, they are old. They're not sacred. They are philosophers, which means that they like sloth. And they cause unrest, but that's fine. You can use these guys to blood hunt and continue to break yourself into blood. The best use for blood slaves that I think you're going to have. Now, the fact that you have a blood 35 sight means that everything that you could have done, you can do better than a lot of other blood nations, right? So, whereas other things might not be cost efficient, like, oh, you can drop 3 red seconds for like 80 blood slaves. Almost. Right? It's kind of ridiculous. You like doing vampires. Okay, you can do vampires cheaper than any other nation. Like, kind of crazy to even say. You want to get down here and do Storm Demon spam. You just empower people in blood, and then you do this. Or you want to do horror spam. Oh, you could do horror spam better than any other nation in the game, probably, because it's way cheaper, and you get really cheap blood mages once you break into it. You get these guys pretty early. It's blood 3, so you hardly have to do any research. And I guess you can use these to summon. We'll do it real quick. It'll probably put a couple in the. Yeah, we got 3 of these guys because we were 3 blood. I don't think that's really worth it. I would probably never do that, but you can do it. So I guess you have to pay to do it. Oh, no, you don't. So that's it. The other thing you can do is you can cast Astral Corruption really cheap. The spell is Corrupt the Crystal Arc. And basically it's a cheaper version of Astral Corruption where you don't need as high a paths. And by the way, you have the paths to do this. So I think going into Blood is a kind of no-brainer. It's not really going to take advantage of your Bless. But because you can't really get, that I can think of, any particularly good Sacreds. But you don't really need to. Like, you just probably, at some point, get Infernal Tempest. Okay, so we've talked about, I think, almost all the summons that I want to talk about. We've talked about all the units. Let's go through strategies now. And I know it's kind of been a long video. So if you're hanging in, then I think we're going to get in the fun part. So I'm going to pull up a game that I just tested expansion in, the Zon test. And you can see this is the early spring end of year 1. We had a bunch of expansions. I'll just show you kind of what they look like. You have one of these, like Crystal Strategists or whatever you call them. You're going to bless up all your guys. You cast Blessing twice. Holy Avenger. And then you run into combat. And you murder everyone. And the bless we took in this case is kind of sick. It's attack 2, magic weapons, decay weapons, which is really for fighting like elite type of things. Because nobody's going to want to throw like super combatants at you when you're doing decay weapons. Shock resistance. This is so that you're going to be having Wrathless Skies up every single fight, so might as well. Defense skill +2, magic resistance +1. The defense skill is pretty important for survivability. Strength 4 is pretty important. Your guys don't hit very hard. And Blood Surge is pretty important. So once... Okay, well this guy's all afflicted. This guy is not. So Once they get Blood Surge, they're actually reasonably killing now. They've got magic weapons, withering weapons. They're hitting for 19 damage, which is a fair amount, and then their hoof doesn't get a bonus from strength, but that's fine. It does get a bonus from attack. You can also have them use their short bow. But, and that might be even a better thing. Well, probably not. But the important thing is that even after a 2 harass penalty, our defense is at 20. So, yeah, we're going to be pretty good. And that's basically just how that works. And that was like 1 turn of capital recruitment. Now, they can die. So, like, here's a battle that didn't go well. We'll watch this. This is pretty rare. This probably happened, and I was not careful at all. But this happened probably like 1 out of every 10 expands. But the thing is, when you're relying on defense builds, like, yeah, you can get unlucky like that. Especially if one of your people gets caught out. But there's decay weapons doing its thing. I think decay weapons actually is pretty good on this, because the things they're going to use to counter you are usually going to have to be kind of specialized. And the kind of specialized things you really don't want getting hit with decay weapons. Your commanders tend to get kind of afflicted, because they usually run into combat and get in a little bit of a weird situation. But you can see, we basically just slaughtered a bunch of shit. So this is 12 turns. This is turn 12 right now. Oops. And we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. 31. Okay. So, pretty good. Now, obviously, in a multiplayer game, like, we would be bumping into people and going all over their own land, so you wouldn't get this big, but this just shows you the early game strength of the nation. Now, I say that you wouldn't be getting this big, but also, you can just not nap your neighbors and then 1 turn take all their shit, because you're going to have, like, 6 expansion parties, which can go take almost all their stuff in your first war in, like, 2 turns. And if you're smart and you don't have any of them die, like I had some die, because I didn't really know what I was doing. But you could have like 10 expansion parties, and you just take all their, like, you can go just jump on, you take all their stuff, they go try to raid, and then you put everybody on their cap, and then the war's over. You know? I mean, it's really, really strong. And nobody's going to want to have to fight you with that. I mean, they will, but anyway. So, and as you can see, we don't have horrible scales. We have kind of bad scales, but we have growth at least. We didn't take any turmoil, and the reason is because we took misfortune. We didn't want to go kind of completely punish ourselves. And then some of your units, like if you, at some point, I think you do want to get these initiates. And just have an army of them to break through fort walls, because you're going to need to siege people's forts. Have an army of them, and they're just going to chunk javelins. While you have hopefully other stuff like your wind lords doing the fighting. And then once they level up, then you're going to have this bless, which is going to give them defense, blood surge, and strength, and decay weapons, and magic weapons, and attack skill. They're not going to be bad. Like, they're going to be pretty damn solid. I don't really have the chassis here, but yeah, they'll be pretty damn good. Oh, I remember what we were going to check when we were going to look at that thing. Let's make sure we can get the Holy 3. So, can we get the Holy 3? Yeah, we can. Okay. So yeah. Basically, you're just going to live off of the Wind Riders. They're going to play a lot like early age Archocephaly, where they can fly around with horse cavalry that just kill everything that are sacred. The difference is, and why they're way better than Arco, is Arco's Sacred Cavalry are limited to their capital, and they don't have storm power. Whereas ours do have storm immunity. Ours have storm immunity, and they're going to have a ton of shock resistance. So what are some important research milestones for this nation? Well, probably the most important... it depends what you're fighting. If you're fighting nations with archers, you can go with Storm. And Storm... Am I, blind? Where the hell is Storm? Oh, I was looking at the wrong school. I was like, no wonder. Okay. But this is Evocation 5. So going for Storm and then going for Wrathful Skies is probably the obvious choice, especially if you're using Sacreds with shock resistance. Yeah, that's really, really, really strong. Especially if you're using more of the Amazon Initiates and you want to just have them kind of survive fights, you don't want to be throwing down Wrathful Skies until they become sacred, unless you have some way to buff them for shock resistance. Obviously, another huge play can be Fog Warriors. With the Flyers, you can also drop Marble Warriors on them, which should be pretty damn good, depending on who you're fighting. But that comes online pretty early. I think it's 7, but it could be 8 for Marble Warriors. So Alteration is going to be kind of good. If you're fighting people with a ton of magic weapons, then obviously Fog Warriors isn't quite as good, and you can pick something else. Thaumaturgy 6 is going to give you the Call Titan Eagle, which I think is definitely a target. And then Enchantment gives you basically like your version of Horde of Skeletons, which is pretty ridiculous, especially if you get up to the top. You can see I took magic. Part of the reason for taking magic is among the many strengths of the nation, we don't have awesome access to research boosters. The research boosters are, first you get air, so we're going to get them at the beginning. We'll get Alquills, but after that you get death with the Skull Mentors. We don't really have death access. After that you get Lightless Lanterns. You can also get Imps, Imp Familiars, which are they're the weakest of all the research boosters, but you can get them early if you have blood. We don't really have any of those. And then you say, okay, well maybe we're going to recruit like really good researchers everywhere. And the answer is probably no. You're probably not going to. If you're making, I think what you usually you want to use a cheap mage as a researcher that is going to be able to do stuff. And Crystal Sorceresses fit the bill. But they're only 9. If you take Drain 3, you're going to go down to 6. They're going to suck. Right? If you go Magic 3, they're going to be up to 12, which is like twice as much research than if you went Drain 3. So I think it is worth going some Magic, probably not Magic 3, so I went Magic 2, to get Crystal Sorceresses to research well. So I think the strategy is conquer the world in expansion, then go and get some forts set up with temples. Now your temples are expensive, so you don't need a ton of infrastructure, right? Because we don't have awesome scales, we have okay scales. And temples are like, our infrastructure is extra expensive. Our units are kind of expensive. We're going to be recruiting out of our fort because we can get like 5 of these guys out of our forts. This is not on them by default. I gave them Snow Move and Spirit Sight, which the Snow Move is more for the other kinds of sacreds, but Spirit Sight's nice. So, yeah, they're 45 gold. You can be getting a lot of these out. So you don't need many forts. You only need a few forts. But each of your forts is going to be pooping out Crystal Sorceresses, which in reality, I don't think you're going to have them doing much except researching. Your capital, or one of your places, is going to be making these Christel Strategists. And they're going to be leading around like armies of these guys, because you're going to have a ton of them. And they will be able to just, eat player after player after player while you get research objectives. Now, if you're doing that and you're now getting really big because you're going to eat your first 2 players really fast, then you say, okay, well, what is the first target my guys should research to support the aggression that I'm going to attract by eating people? I think it's probably Storm and Wrathful Skies. Because what is going to happen if you have big armies of these guys, especially with the shock resistance bless, you're going to put up Storm, so if they have flyers, they can't use their flyers on you. And you can do Storm turn 1 with one of these guys, with the Cloud Sage. So that's a situation where you would want to have him. You're going to have Crystal Sorceresses. Okay, you're also going to want to power the spheres. And you're also going to want summon Storm Power. So, yeah, doing that and then having like one communion of like 8 to 10 Crystal Sorceresses running around with an army of, let's say, 80 Wind Maidens and one of the Holy Threes who doesn't have much leadership, and then one of these guys just is a general. Yeah. It will not be pretty, guys. I mean, they will just... Yeah, they'll kill, I think, almost anything. Like, yeah. Even if a nation has, like, a huge numbers advantage, they're not going to be able to kill your stuff before the Wrathful Skies kills them. And your Sacreds you're going to have so many of them, especially in the mid-game, that you'll just be able to slice through whatever they have. So that would probably be the first target, is like some combination of Conjuration and then Evocation to get up to like Conjuration 3 and then Evocation probably 6. After that, your god, like I took an Imprisoned God, so at some point when my god spawns, they're going to break us into blood in case the game goes late. But after that, I probably would start going up for Thaumaturgy to get the Titan Eagle, because I think this is the best sync for air gems. And then once you have that, then you can get Inner Tempest. I think Enchantment 9 might be the best bet after that. Or, well, at some point you have to say when you want to get Fog Warriors. So it's depending on who you're fighting, but yeah, no, probably Fog Warriors. So let's see, Storm, Wrathful Skies. You get to make a decision about Alteration for Fog Warriors or Thaumaturgy for your Titan Eagle. And then after you have, I think, probably Fog Warriors and the Titan Eagle, that's when you run all the way through Enchantment. And this also opens up Nexus to you too, because that's going to be Enchantment 9. But there's some other things you can do, like you have a cheap version of Cloud Trapeze, which you can use for raiding, which is nice. And then once you're in Blood, I already mentioned the shenanigans you can do with putting Black Hearts on your little eagle stealthy dudes. Okay, so I think that's an overview for the nation. I've kind of talked about how to expand. I've talked about the bless I got and why I got it. I'll maybe say a couple more words on that. Defense is super important on Cavalry, and like on Cavalry, the more defense you have, the better. Ideally, we would have gone defense 4, and if you figure out a way to do that, you probably should. I just ran out of design points, and I didn't want to sack scales too much. Magic weapons is important. You have some troops who can get magic weapons, and so it's redundant on, but the units you're going to be massing, especially early, are not going to have it. And so you don't want to run into the situation where you're fighting somebody else with Fog Warriors and you don't have magic weapons. Decay weapons is good for killing things that... the thing is, your Sacreds are not terribly killy. we have taken a bless that's going to give them attack, skill, and strength and blood surge. They're going to be way more killy than they otherwise would have been. But with defense-based builds, you don't want the fight to grind on too long. Eventually stuff will get through. Eventually guys will get out of position and harassed down. So decay weapons is going to help deal with like super combatants and thugs, potentially. And then these other things are going to keep the fight from lasting too long, right? With attack and strength and blood surge. Shock resistance is nice. I don't know if you need this much, but if you're going to be putting up Wrathful Skies every fight, and you also have Earth Magic, so you can potentially drop Army of Gold. If you're going to be doing Army of Gold and Wrathful Skies every fight, it's nice to have a fair amount of shock resistance. So we didn't really talk about Army of Gold. I don't know if it's like the highest priority for in terms of research. But after you conquer 2 or 3 players, even just cranking out Crystal Sorceresses in magic scales, you will have pretty damn good research. So you will need Alquills at the beginning, but at some point your air gems are going to be better spent on things like Titan Eagles. So, yeah, we talked about the Bless. Can you play this nation scales? Probably, yeah. You can mass archers, and these guys you could probably expand with. The Zon initiates are a little flimsy to trust in expanding. You probably could use them as supplements, where they're going to just throw their javelins. You potentially could build a Bless around the Zon archer, and have them... I forget if you get them in every fort. I think you might, actually. Yeah, I think you might. So you could do an Archer Bless where you get some kind of like weapon application, like, and actually we have decay weapons and that will go on your arrows. So you could get some of these. It will go on the javelins too. So once you get these guys sacred, a weapon bless would be, I think, a little memey, not as good because you'll struggle with expansion. But you could go death weapons or some funny thing that you're going to have on your bows, and then on your Amazon initiates, when they upgrade, they'll have it on their javelins. So you totally could do like a weapon kind of memey bless, and it may be good. I haven't tested it. I'm sure it won't do as well in expansion. But you could make up for it if you're able to get, like 100 Zon initiates to upgrade. You'll be looking pretty good with the weapon bless. Because when 100 times 2 javelins come in with some kind of crazy bless on them, it could be very painful. So like unholy weapons is something you could pick up, which I think would be probably one of the go-to blesses for a weapon bless. Death weapons too. And it wouldn't be bad for expansion because you do have several attacks. Like you have the lance and the hoof. So I think that's it, guys. Closing thought is I think this is not balanced for multiplayer. It's very, very strong. But it's very complicated and there's a lot of little things to figure out and optimize. And I think it would be an extremely fun single-player nation to play. I've got one other nation I'm going to do. I'm not sure when I will upload it. But it's kind of the sister nation to this. It's instead of the Crystal Amazons, it's the Garnet Amazons or something like that. But anyway, we'll talk about that next time. So anyway, thank you all, and hope to see you next time. Oh, if you've played them before, comment on it below, because I haven't actually played them through in a game. I've just spent a few hours trying to figure them out. Anyway, take care.